heart demo is all about pulse science, and so basically what it's trying to do is teach both kids and adults how to take their pulse, because it's a really important tool to kind of have for yourself and also like emergency situations and stuff like that. So basically we're just going to be learning a little about hearts and then about the circulatory system and then how to actually take your pulse and then compare a resting pulse rate versus active pulse rate. So basically the kind of materials that you really need for this, all you pretty much need is visitors with beating hearts and then some sort of way to kind of track them. So a stopwatch or even a timer on your phone or anything could be used for this. We're going to use the iPad just because we have all sorts of cool stuff on this. We have apps like this one called Heart Decide, and you actually can like look at a heart model and kind of see all the different valves. And it's kind of fun to like let kids kind of play around with it too, because it can like spin around and do all sorts of cool stuff. So we're going to use the iPad because it has all sorts of calculators and stuff that we might need. And then other things to use that aren't necessary but are kind of fun to have are things like models, like heart models. This one you can take apart. There you go. And then you can actually see inside of it. So if you have younger kids that aren't really interested in the math or kind of knowing the science behind hearts, they can always kind of play with the valves and just kind of like touch stuff. And it's kind of fun, like the insides are kind of red, so you can kind of feel that, which is kind of cool. And then also a stethoscope, just because especially if you have younger kids, it's kind of fun to let them hear their hearts, and it kind of makes it a little bit more real for them, I guess, to have something that they can hear and then kind of relate that back to what they're learning. So these are just some kind of basic tools that you can find pretty much anywhere in the museum that'll kind of make it a little bit more interesting if the kids aren't too interested in the science part of it, and just kind of let younger kids have something to do as well. And so, as far as the actual lab goes, it kind of depends whether you're dealing with younger kids or older kids. If you're dealing with younger kids, they're pretty much just want to like touch the stuff and kind of spin the heart around and do stuff, which is fine. But if you have older kids, you can kind of go into like the science of what's happening and talk more about your circulatory system and like the atria and ventricles and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So, but pretty much like the basic thing of what you're doing is you want to get them to be able to feel their pulse. So for this one, you just need to take 2 fingers and then feel around in your wrists until you can feel what feels like little flicks against your fingers, and that's your pulse. So you can feel it in your wrist really well, or in the side of your neck, right underneath your jawbone. You can kind of press, and you can feel little taps against your fingers. So those are 2 really easy spots to feel your pulse. And you can feel your pulse all out through your body, but it's easy to start there. And so you can kind of practice like kind of flicking against their fingers a little bit if you're not sure what their pulse should feel like. And that kind of helps them kind of know what to kind of look for. And so once they can feel their pulse and they know what it feels like, then they can actually take their pulse. And so you want to explain that you just need to kind of press your fingers against where you can really feel your pulse, and then you need to count how many taps you feel in 15 seconds. And so that's when you'll use your little clock, and then you can time the 15 seconds. And so you can time how long it'll take and then how many taps they feel, and then you'll just ask them how many taps did you feel, and then you'll multiply that number by 4. And so you do that because sometimes whenever you're at the doctor's office or you're getting your pulse taken, you'll get nervous. And so this just happens naturally, and so when you get nervous, your heart will speed up, and so then your pulse will be faster. And so we kind of divide it up into the 4 little chunks to make sure that you're getting an accurate pulse reading and that it's the best it can be, and it won't speed up and give you like an inaccurate reading or anything. And so this has a calculator on it too, so you can easily just calculate that. Sometimes we get little like whiteboards on here to kind of write the math down just to make it easier for people to see where the 4 is coming from and like why you multiply and stuff like that. And so usually if you have younger kids, you're not going to really want to do that, but if you have older kids, then you can kind of go into nervousness and why your heart beats faster and stuff like that. And so then that's your resting pulse rate. So that means that it's your pulse rate when you're not doing any physical activity. And so once you have that number, you can compare it to your active heart rate. And so when you're trying to do your active heart rate, you'll do some form of exercise. I like to do high knees. And so just kind of like do high knees for a little bit, like 30 seconds or something, to get your heart really kind of beating fast. And then you'll take your pulse again in the same way, just 2 fingers, and then feeling those little taps for 15 seconds, and then multiplying it by 4, then you'll get your active pulse rate. And so then you can ask them, why is your active pulse rate and your resting heart rate kind of different? And so then those answers kind of vary all the time of like, your heart is working more, or they have no idea. So you can kind of explain to them that when your muscles are working more, they need more blood flow, and that's why your heart is beating faster. And then that's why your pulse is faster. And so that's pretty much the gist of the lab. It's just kind of resting pulse rate and then active pulse rate. And then if they really just want to try and make their heart go crazy and have like run around like a museum or something, like get them like really going. And then that's kind of fun for younger kids too if they just want to like run around for a little bit, which is good too. But that's pretty much the gist of the lab. If they ever want to know more, there's all sorts of stuff in the lab write-up about kind of the different pulses you can feel, and then comparing your pulse like when you wake up versus when you go to sleep, and why it can be higher or lower, things like that. And then things like what your pulse can be used for, like it can like tell you about your health or about your heart or your circulatory system or your like lifestyle things. And so those are all kind of in the lab write-up if you want to know more.